This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road, Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I am so excited to share today with you. We have so much going on, and I spent until the wee hours collecting information that I thought everybody was going to enjoy, and you simply cannot deny the connections we're going to show you today. First, I want to start by welcoming to the show Terry Batcher.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Day to shine. Boy, I have more slides for you to go over than I do for myself.
Cool. Very cool.
And then we'd like to welcome as well Harriette Suchet.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we're going to hear an interesting solve from you today as well. And then we're going to welcome Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. We are we allowed to talk about San Diego courts, or should we just suppress that one for a minute?
The fix was in.
The fix was in. I want to say in short, the beneficiary signed as a witness whose husband drafted the will, and the will was not even copacetic with the wishes and the needs of the individual it purported to be for, and somehow they were found credible.
Yeah. A perjurer was found credible, and a forgerer was found credible.
Right? Right.
Forgery on the witness stand.
You know, I had long since, I've done a couple cases in San Diego, and I had literally felt that those courts were kind of the good old boy system, and the fix was in, and no outsider was going to come in and ever win anything there. And it's just proved to me by that case that it did. I hope you saw my new reports and everything I put together, because I spent 4 hours on that yesterday, as frustrated as hell going over that evidence once again, just to sum everything up that we learned in trial.
Yes. I will go over it. I've been trying to stay away from it for a week.
Yeah, no, me too. It did. Me too. It's like I told them, I can't even talk about it right now. I'm so shocked and frustrated that the evidence didn't prevail over the perjured witnesses. And we had clearly enough witnesses in the room that disinterested witnesses could have signed that will based on their lying testimony.
Yeah.
Anyways,
their witnesses were like our witnesses, but the judge didn't care.
I know. I'm crossing my fingers for a better result, and the justice will prevail. So I always have hope.
There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. And that brings me to my first slide. So we're going to throw up my PowerPoint presentation, because I had another case where I was working on an anonymous letter and complaint to the city permit office, and that led me to the post office. So I was looking at this particular envelope in order to determine its origination. So I went into the post office, and quite frankly, it was interesting because I ran into a gal who I know she's been working at my local post office for the last probably 10 or so years, but she was absolutely my postmaster when I first bought my first house when I was 21 in Alberta. And she's now here locally with me in Citrus Heights. So it was kind of cool. I brought the envelope in because mainly I wanted to find out its origination, what process it went through. And while I was doing that, I noticed this random L to the side here. And if everybody knows what the random L means to me, I find it a lot on the Zodiac communications, the Black Dahlia communications. It's just this letter L for whatever reason that doesn't equate to anything. And I couldn't make any sense with it other than it existed. So I took this into the post office. I made my questions to her as to what I was looking for. She literally went into the back of the post office and she was gone for about 15 minutes. I was starting to get a little bored. But when she came out, she said, Nanette, I don't know what the L stands for. She said, my postmaster didn't know, his supervisor didn't know, and the big guy, the big supervisor, has no clue what this L stands for on this envelope. So for me, it reminded me of the Blacklist, where they talk about the CIA operations being in the post office. They call it the post office. So it always gets my little conspiracy head going, especially when I see this L. Now I know that even supervisor after supervisor after the big wig in the office has no clue what this L established. So if anybody can figure this out, I would absolutely love to know what the L stands for.
Not letter.
What's that?
And not letter.
Yeah, not letter. I wonder, that would be interesting. At any rate, we left off last week with the Vancouver letter, which he indicated that the composite was incorrect and he wanted to make that known. DB Cooper, that is. And of course, I showed you where the Zodiac also said the same thing, that I look like the description passed out, but only when he does his thing. And we talked about how the CIA is phenomenal with making someone look absolutely different than they normally do. So we move on to that. Did we lose Harriette? Has she called in?
We lost her.
No.
She'll come back. She'll be back.
All right.
Call in.
Yeah, she said she would call. Yay! All right. So we're now to the solve of the DB Cooper Vancouver letter. So I'm going to read this off for everybody and you can tell us what it means, okay?
Okay.
All right. So the letter, chief editor, the province, the composite drawing on page 3, as suspected, does not represent the truth. I enjoyed the Grey Cup game. Am leaving Vancouver. Thanks for your hospitality, DB Cooper. And it was mailed to the chief editor, the province, 2250 Granville Street, Vancouver. And then there's just this random backwards 9. Well, we're going to see. I'm going to call it a backwards P because Terry, you're going to be talking about this letter P and this backwards version. So in Harriette's solve, she worked this out by anagramming the information, and it came out to say FBI Director M.O. Terrence received CIA Vietnam China border Chua Buddhist Cave 2/13/1966 VCMO 2 LRS 00 battle drone camera. Oh,
Yeah,
sent
it's
plus
a lot
720.
of military stuff.
Do you have that solve in front of you?
I'm looking for it. So
I don't see what it says after drone camera.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, read that solve for us.
Okay, it's definitely saying, as I anagrammed it out, it came out with some, oh my God, FBI Director Richard Helms, MO, that's method of operation, is Terrence received the CIA, which of course Central Intelligence Agency, Vietnam, China border, Chua Buddhist Cave, February 13th, 1966, Viet Cong, MO, 2-team long-range surveillance operations order, battle drone camera images sent plus 20s money, SAC, Tina Bar, Columbia River, Vancouver, Washington. He's saying that they recovered what the main caper was about, was getting those compromising images, and future solves you're going to see there. They were compromising images of the then president of the closed up communist China. They're going to use this to try to stop the Vietnam War. You know, Nixon's Nixon is going to blackmail them.
Wow. Now, everybody knows that technology exists 50 years in advance to the normal public receiving it. So when I saw drone, I think of drones as something relatively new because to the public, they are relatively new. Just in the last, maybe 10 years?
Right.
Yeah.
So it would stand to reason that the military had this technology in advance and that they had been using it for secret spy missions. We see that there's going to be a lot of uses for drones, dropping things off. In the Blacklist, you get to watch them, or I'm sorry, I think it was Queen of the South. You got to watch them actually use drones to deliver their drugs across the Mexican border. So drones are a thing, you guys, and I'm not shocked to see it as early as this particular communication, which is in 1971, because that sets that 50-year precedence that I keep telling everybody about.
Yep.
So the plus 727 flight 305 20s money sack, Tina Bar, Columbia River, Vancouver, Washington. So the message that is being purported here would have been relatively easy to have gotten back to Rackstraw, who then pointed out the hippies in his group that their son would find this money on the beach of Tina Bar, which is where, in fact, it was actually found. I get so excited looking at your solves, Harriette. I don't know what to do with myself because they are just like subtle confirmations of what we talk about and the evidence that is actually existing in this case.
And can I say something really quick about the Chua Buddhist caves?
Please.
My father brought back something about that's very important to the Catholics as well as the Buddhists, because they believe that the Virgin Mary, which was the then Vietnam's, oh my God, still a lot of people from Vietnam say the Virgin Mary, Our Lady of Lavong, was there a couple hundred years ago. And this is what I have something that's from those, that's depicting those Chua Buddhist caves, because my father brought it back from Vietnam. So,
wow.
I mean, this is how come I said, wow, because my father was there. He was there for Vietnam beginning to end. He brought stuff into the war zones. So anyways, this is a very personal connection. I said, wow, I know something about that. I managed to save it from fires, but anyways, yeah. So this is awesome. Very amazing,
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So that moves us on to the composite, since he is so adamant that the FBI has gotten the composite wrong. I did briefly watch another podcast that was trying to instill that DB Cooper was Hispanic.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I know. However, like I said, the description says white male in his 40s. So where did that literally take on the Hispanic origin? I'm not sure, because white male and Hispanic are definitely two different colors.
Yeah.
5'10", 5'10" to 6 foot. No coincidence. That's Jack. 170 to 180 pounds. These are, again, Jack's stats during this time frame, and he is known to lose weight rapidly or to gain weight depending on what he is trying to abscond from. Go ahead, Terry B.
You remember from the Black Dahlia case, it was described as being how they describe his complexion as being swarthy. Remember we talked about swarthy being a darker skin. So yes. Yeah.
And Jack tanned well, as a matter of fact. So this whole Hispanic thing almost reminds me of the Mexico connection that we actually have, running rampant through all of these crimes. Just another ploy to get people on the wrong track. And DB Cooper seemed to want to let people know that what they were looking at as far as a composite was concerned was not indicative of what he really looked like. So they must have made some alterations. However, I can see here the turkey neck, right? We got that turkey neck, wrinkles in the neck. We've got the high forehead. We've got the combed back hair. We've got basically pretty much the same jawline as the Zodiac.
Ears too.
Everything was there.
Everything.
What are the three drawings on the upper right?
These were suspects or possible eyewitness accounts of people who may have been involved with, like, the Belanak, the nurse murders in Sacramento. So the
Okay.
crossover from leaving the Bay Area into South Lake Tahoe. And we will show this one later because I have a picture of Jack where he actually dyed his hair and his beard. And you can see that the dye is coming out and that the color is literally, let me shut that off. The color is literally fading away, but for whatever reason during that time frame, he literally dyed his hair black. Also putting that next to obviously Jack once again, same jaw, same face structure, same everything.
Right.
I just thought it was interesting. They did have 3 different takes on 3 different, but maybe these people weren't even related to what was going on. I just thought it was ironic that we had this version of this particular look with black hair and a black beard, and we're going to see that later as we move through this presentation and talk more about Jack. This is where I got excited. Yes,
can I
go ahead.
interject something really quick? Because I remember last week you said that you found this picture that I got very amazing and clear. I got it of some site that was trying to claim that this was copywritten material, and you cannot copyright this, or whatever. I said, this bullshit. This is source fair use.
Right. You put it out there on the internet. We have the right to use it, buddy.
Right.
So I got the copy, and it's I forget how I got the copy, but this is extremely clear, So
it is the best version so far I've seen. It is definitely so far the best version that I have seen of this letter. It now means that I can include this in the handwriting examination, because before I couldn't literally make out some of the finer characteristics, but this is perfect. It's something I will take myself back to, and I will actually break apart and show. But again, if you look at it, it's very consistent with the Voinovich, the Senator Voinovich's letter in 2001. So, and for me, it touches home for sure. All right, so this is where I got excited last night, you guys. I about fell out, and we're going to be. Did I do more? Oh, we'll get to the biggest one. But I was staring at. We're going to be looking at these DB Cooper messages, of course, today, and Terry B has made some good connections between images and caricatures from the actual writings. Again, there's that backwards P, or the 9 that we just talked about on the envelope. Let's see, where did I cover that? Not there. Oh, we haven't gotten to it yet. I'm a little bit ahead of myself. But Terry B is going to talk about that. I just wanted to point out that I knew I had actually seen this letter D before. So last night I was scouring until the wee hours of the morning looking for this letter D. Everybody's got to remember, I'm dealing with something like 500 communications. 200 plus written by Jack, 300 plus, which I believe are written by the same person, that encompasses all of these particular crimes. So lo and behold, I went in and I actually found the Donna Lass card, in which case it says Saint Donna. Now that letter D is identically formed in the same manner as the D's on the DB Cooper. This is actually a request to be part of a parachuting group. And we see that it says professional high Jacker.
Hi. You did that in another document too.
Hi,
Jack.
That's right.
But hi,
it's
Jack.
right up here. Hi, Jack.
Hi,
Hi,
Jack.
Jacker.
But hi, Jack. Just J-A-C-K.
Right?
Hi, Jack.
And then I looked at the letter B with this long drawn in stroke, the tiny little top bubble and the bigger bottom bubble. We see again, in even the slant of that top bubble actually works its way up in the same fashion. Now, everybody has to remember that we never write the exact same way twice. So when I'm looking for things to make an identification or an exclusion, I'm looking at all aspects. How does the tail on the D form? How does the exit stroke of that D form? Which direction does it slant in? And how tall is that in reference to the rest of the stuff around it? And we can see that the D in Donald is actually absolutely perfect. I was just so overjoyed when I found this. I couldn't barely sleep. It's like a kid on Christmas last night.
I can see why. That's a great document.
Right?
Fine. Absolutely.
And then you have some things up here that you were talking about. Can you
Right.
see this particular communication, Terry?
I can't. I don't know what any of the mishmash in the second layer is or second level, but it clearly says BD Cooper instead of DB. And
Yeah.
there's another document I sent you where I thought, well, was he implying that by that age she would have been a cougar? I don't know, but that's just I can make. You know what I'm saying? But
Black Dahlia?
yeah, Black
Yeah,
Dahlia. That had she lived, she'd have been a cougar by then, but or qualified to be a cougar. I don't know. Anyway, I've only known about that term cougar for the last 6 or 8 years, but yeah, it's clearly BD instead of DB, and he did that more than once, as you'll see. So
Yes, he did that
the
more
rest
than
of it, I'm
once
just
in these.
speculating is what was it about? That's all.
Well, but it is an obvious
thing.
thing to point out, since we do believe that he's responsible for Black Dahlia, that he is continually misplacing that B and D in order to say BD in many of these communications.
Again, it's cryptic.
He's hinting because it's Bill Hilliard is the editor for the Oregonian, and Bill Hilliard has everything to do with, according to his crew, with Black Dahlia. So he's just wait until you see some of these other solves. He's hinting, hey, you're involved with this, dude.
Cool.
So,
I never thought about that, but you are absolutely right. So Bill Hilliard is the editor at the time of the Oregonian, right?
Yeah. And he was
we're going to see many references from DB Cooper in regards to the Oregonian.
Yep.
Yes.
Here goes everything.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot of connections.
Yeah, Terry, you also have one last one on here, the strong ampersand hint.
Right. Well, that's what I was speculating. I don't have anything in depth to say about that, but these were my notes. You were actually seeing my notes at the time saying, that's why I never really labeled this stuff carefully, because I thought, well, this is still a work in progress at the time. So I just set it aside. But I thought, BD Cooper, I hadn't mentioned it before. And so it comes to fruition today, if you will. And I'm glad you found this other stuff on the left. That's great. I've seen that document, and I've seen hijack, but I didn't pay attention to hijacker. But I think that's great. It's cool. You miss a lot of this stuff. There's a ton. He was cryptic on everything. Everything he did was cryptic. Everything.
One of the things I didn't quite understand is you said note that the ampersand is above the number 7 on a QWERTY keyboard. What does that mean?
Well, as you look at your keyboard, I don't know what you have in front of it. Isn't that the ampersand or is that the plus sign? I'm looking at mine now. I don't even remember.
No, ampersand is above a 7.
No, ampersand above the 2.
Yes.
I made a mistake, right? Which one's ampersand? I don't even know anymore. It's been a long time since I was in school.
I thought ampersand was the and.
Is
yes.
it A over 2?
And it's on
and
the
that's
7.
Over 7. And it's over the 7, just like
you.
Okay,
it is ampersand. Because there's the other one that's over the letter 2, and I don't know what you call that.
That's the at. That's the at.
At AT. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I got that right. So again, but that's
you
I
did
just
get
pointed
it right.
out that I thought everything he did was as we say, it was cryptic. And nobody knows that better than Harriette.
Well, so does the number 7 strike you some way? I mean,
the number 7.
Yeah, because you stated that note that the ampersand is above the number 7 on the QWERTY keyboard. So I was looking more or less for a explanation of what that meant to you.
At the 7, to me, it's just a 7 hint so far. I mean, that's the depth. You'd have to look at what Harriette would have to say, and she'd probably have more to add than I could on that. But
right, and we will be getting to all these solves with Harriette as we move through them. Today was more or less about the connections between Jack, the Zodiac, and the DB Cooper caper. So we'll move on from that. So this was another one that you sent me. Oh, there's that P. So as we were talking about this backwards P that looks like a G with this long tail, you then pointed that out in the cutouts from the Black Dahlia, this very long-stemmed P, which you thought Jack was rather fond of, or at least he uses it a lot in his messages. And you are correct. I've seen it a lot. I didn't really know what you were talking about until I saw it in the BD Cooper. And I went, there's that 9 again, or that
Okay,
P.
He's
Backwards
drawn.
P.
He draws attention to everything he does in a certain way, and that's one of them. The P is a big one, and it's going to be a real big one when we come up to the Ramsey case. It's going to be a gigantic one. We can talk about that later, but today's focus. The W's too. I mean everything, and Harriette knows this stuff all too well. So
now explain to us the W and follow.
Well, I'm just pointing out that there's actually a V. He's making a flova hint because by breaking that W, he made a V. You know.
Right.
So once again, we have a flova hint. I mean, he has those all the way up to the Ramsey murder.
Yes, he does. Beyond. And they said that I think that the profiler in the Zodiac case indicated that the Zodiac had a perverse love for his mother. I believe that Dennis said that Jack had mom tattooed on him. Is that correct, Harriette?
Yeah, I think mom with the heart. Yeah, mom with the heart.
And where was that? Was that on his wrist, his forearm?
I think it was on his upper arm. So that way you would never see it. If he was wearing a shirt or anything, you'd never see it. That's what I understand anyway.
So that perverse love brings us back to the fact that when his father died, Jack thought he was going to take the male role in the ranch with his mom and found out that his uncle was actually coming to take it over. And that's when he split town and left. That's when he got the heck out of Dodge, when he realized he wasn't going to be the man he desired to be in his mom's life. So there was kind of some sick perversion there. And of course, we know that he returned on a constant basis to his mom as much as he possibly can. I mean, multiple times in a year, no matter where she was living, whether it was Texas, Chicago, California, you could find Jack on her heels at all times.
How did his dad die?
He died in a tractor accident on the farm. He was ran over by a tractor, and then and here's a plow tractor. Jack watched it happen and simply walked away and didn't tell anybody that his dad was trapped underneath the tractor.
He also
Oedipus.
What's that?
Sounds like an Oedipal complex.
Yep, exactly. One quick point about the last one is simply that remember the sorry ma thing in the Black Dahlia case where he put sorry M-A large and then instead of sorry Mary.
I was wondering what the reference was for sorry Mary, but you're right. I could see that. Sorry ma.
That's what I thought of that at the time. This one here is just to show crop marks and how they resemble the letter K and how he liked to draw a lot of his K's as crop marks where he actually detached the two, sections of it. So I just grabbed this one from the Black Dahlia era just to make this point. That's the only significance that I've read into this particular photograph, except it's from the Black Dahlia.
Man in the picture.
But it's from 1947. It's from the Black Dahlia case. It was in some
the guy?
We don't
know. I have no idea. You'd have to go back and read the papers in the day. This was a newspaper. This was found in a certain library out of California that had some really nice, clear images from that era. And I could share all of it with you guys and tell you later. I don't remember what library it was. But I think Nanette is the first one that helped me to crop marks from the Grimes murder, 1957 Grimes murder. And this is what the editors do to say, this is all I want. I want to crop this photo down to the center area. So that's the crop marks that the editor says, here's what I want for a final picture. Fit this picture will then be fit to put to where he wants to put, so.
It's rather reminiscent of the Halloween card. However, it is obviously different. And we know that the script on the Halloween card came from the Dick Tracy comics. So,
yep.
But I did not know that this K was meant to crop, but I can see how it would be because it's giving you a place to crop it at, and it's saying downward and here and to the side. So I can definitely understand at least that concept or MO for cropping pictures.
That and how it relates to some of his letter K's is the only reason, that and the Grimes case. So while you are an expert at writing this stuff in chronological order and detail, wonderful. I'm kind of always working in circles with this stuff, where I'm, kind of like navigation is in circles. I'm working front to back. How does this relate to the early crimes, the middle crimes, the later crimes? How does this stuff fit? That's
Right.
what I look for. That's kind of what drives me.
Mhm.
But
And we know Jack was into photography, so this would be something that he was very well aware of.
certainly.
Yep.
Then you had this picture.
Well, murder watch in the Sherry Joe Bates case, they found a watch, so why that you ask yourself, okay, set murder watch, and how that might relate to DB Cooper is, of course, timing is going to be everything if he's going to make that jump. He's definitely going to have to watch his watch. He's going to have to, and maybe that has something to do with that magic amulet that we can talk about later, that he might have been wearing a special device to aid him in where to drop and find the drop zone. I'm not sure. That's speculation. But when we come to the magic amulet part of one of the documents you presented already, that's what I had in mind. And that's why I just sent you this particular document to say, well, look at that, murder watch. Isn't that a key word? So that's
It is.
That's all I pulled. And that's from the Black Dahlia case too. That's from the newspapers. That was something that was printed in the papers, or I assume was printed in the paper. But anyway, there's a paper. It's printed in some circular. So what circular, we can go back to find out,
And we know that the Swindles, Mr. Swindle, had his watch taken. So evidently he was the individual with a watch that would have been covered in paint, since he also painted on the side, painted houses on the side. And the painting of houses just brings me back to The Irishman. He said, I started painting houses myself, which meant killing people.
Yeah. Everything's cryptic with him.
And so maybe Swindle was secretly a hitman, who knows?
Perhaps. There was certainly more than him. You guys figured that out, and Dennis figured that out. So, but next document, there's just simply water is the reason I grabbed that one, because we know that's going to be important when it comes to those Playboy cutouts with the woman underwater. That you pointed out.
I never even paid attention to that before, but when I saw that, I went, wow, that is clear as day. Water.
By size, he's placing great emphasis on the word water,
Right.
So he did this stuff.
I'm sure with this,
amazing.
When I thought about the cutouts, and sometimes you have to look through different pages to actually come up with what it is that you're trying to say. But I have to believe that in the smaller font, he could have certainly found it a W, A, T, and an E, and an R. These are very common letters that are used in many words, that he could have found something that would have been inside these particular smaller versions. But you're right, he chose specifically to actually highlight or to pronounce louder than anything the W-A-T-E-R, as well as the I-N-G over here. We do note that the Zodiac had a reducing I-N-G at the end of his words. So that's something
that's a mystery to me, but crack, I'm going to point out the word crack as being, that's what you do to a cipher. You crack a cipher.
Right. And he says crack proof is the Zodiac. So again, there's
Zodiac. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
can't crack this
stuff going. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm sorry, Jack, but we cracked you.
Yeah, absolutely. He helped us crack him. He made sure somebody's going to crack us. Go ahead, Harriet.
Just 50 years too late.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you look at them, you'll see that when he's saying try, I'm crack proof or crack this or whatever, that he's hinting to whoever's seeing this. This is supposed to be a version of a cipher. Find the message.
Yep.
So right. That's what I'm learning all these years later.
Right.
Did you ever try a solve on this one, Harriet?
Which one is this one?
Dahlia. It's the cutouts in the Black Dahlia. It says Dahlia's killer cracking, wants terms.
Yeah, the top it says Express and Herald.
I would have to see that one then. You'd have to send it to me. I don't think I'd done that one.
We'll do
okay.
It.
So
we'll do.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Next one, Terry.
Well, it just simply shows where he cut it out of what particular paper. Red was a person that was a temporary suspect in the Black Dahlia case, and this is just them showing where they got for the gasoline-soaked letter where he got Dahlia from. He got it from this particular publication, the Herald Express, or Express as he is misspelled it intentionally. He skipped a letter R in one of the Zodiac documents. So yeah, he's putting this stuff full circle.
Yes, he is.
So yeah, that's all I grabbed that for. Well,
so now this is from the Zodiac stuff, and you have found more.
I credit Harriette a little bit because I didn't know that was a symbol for the compass. So I just applied something I tried on the Ramsey murder, which worked for me, and just said, okay, are these pointers? These 9s and P's are pointers. So let's use those as pointers. And so we've got a north. So I tried a decimal solve, and it took me to, it ended up being right straight on the top of Pelican Butte. And there's not much more I can tell you about that other than Pelican Butte is a sign of the zodiac, or is a zodiac sign from something to do with the Chinese language. But that's as far as I took this. And then I just put the flow there showing an east-west sign. So you can clearly see that that's a 340 cipher. And the thing that stood out for me is it's definitely built in quadrants. And apparently the other people have treated it as quadrants also. So he's giving
Isn't Pelican Butte, is Pelican Butte near you, Harriette?
No, it's in California.
No, I'm asking Harriette.
Oh, no, Oregon. It's in Oregon, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's in Oregon.
But what you're describing, Terry B, would you say it is the thing like global geospatial imaging from above to where you can interpret the images? Yeah.
Yes, because that's what he did often. As you know, he was looking at things from an aerial view. A lot of his stuff was based on an aerial view.
And we can take that back to D.B. Cooper and to Jack, who both were able to identify lakes, bodies of water, and Air Force bases from 35,000 miles or feet in the air.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Full circle. Full circle.
And that brings us to
the next.
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say real quickly, that's why we need Terry B to do a lot of these now, because when you're seeing what I've done with the evidence, and you ask me how could you do this, that the evidence was describing, and relayed in newspapers in the 70s, it's because they were taking pictures from way above 30, 40,000, 50 feet in the air, following the bad guys and trailing them. And then that's how they knew at 2:00 in the morning, the body was dragged 20 feet in the middle of nowhere, Texas. So anyway, so you'll get this. We'll definitely get that far. That's what they were doing. Even in the World War II, they were taking pictures from high above. Click, 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 click.
Everything is aerial views, in the military. And this one was merely me pointing out simply, well, what can we say about the 340 that it is the simplest takeaway, and that is that all these FLOVs are adjacent letter, and there's no other letters on the whole doc or symbols on the document that do that, and they're in the quadrants. They're in, they have an upper left, upper right quadrant, a lower right, and a lower left quadrant where you find that, and that's the most redundant hint of the 340 cipher. And I took it no further than that. I can only just say that. But isn't that sufficient if you know that Jack Torrance's mother's middle name was Flo or Flova, So
right.
I think that's there's more evidence. He's taken ownership of all this stuff, which is something Harriette's been saying for years, and Nanette's been saying for years, and this fortifies that, I think.
Hijacker.
Hijacker, yeah.
Hijacker.
Right. So it's a fortification.
In the bottom right corner, it almost spells that Zodiac. It's like Zodiac.
Exactly.
And he loved his movies, and there's
right after the Zodiac. Right after the Zodiac is Jack's monogram. So we see the T, J, and W with a plus because he's the second. Everybody needs to remember that plus sign is more. Well, I know that when they did the solve on this on the hunt for the Zodiac, they discussed and stated that the last two symbols of the cipher were the sign off of the individual who wrote it. And I already knew that this is Jack's monogram. This is the JWT all in one little monogram. Yeah. And the plus sign to me just says number 2 because Jack was a junior.
Well, There's one other
Nice.
point I can leave with this document. One other point I can make with this document. I circled RKO because I know that he had a fixation not only on music, but movies, and that the Zodiac Killer from the Charlie Chan movie, I think, was an RKO production. I'm not positive of that, but he definitely not only did he quote, music titles and things like that. He had a fixation, which we'll see when you get to OCCK, but and other things. But I just circled that because RKO, the studio. That's all. It's a real plain and obvious observation. That's all I did. I took it not much, and then there's plain words like Tom in there and things like that. Is that Tom Voight? Who knows? I don't know.
Right.
And wasn't that Charlie Chan movie filmed on Treasure Island and in the Bay Area?
Yes. Well, I think it was shown.
Probably so. Yeah. I've never even seen the movie yet. I have to just look that one up and watch it.
Me either.
I love old movies, but haven't been there yet.
All right, so here's another, and this one points out all those backwards nine. I'm not going to call them nines because I don't think anybody equated the cipher to nines rather than equating it to backwards P's.
They're pointers as well. I take them as basically being pointers. He's pointing. So that's all. That's for the Pelican Butte. Simple. I mean, this is nowhere near as sophisticated as what Harriette does because I don't have the patience or the time to do that sort of stuff. But I'm glad that Harriette's done that sort of work on, and I never understood how anagram solves work, but I do now. I get it. I couldn't do it, but I get how it works.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. This is busy.
And look at the pointer.
I was dreaming of doing one last night.
The pointer again pointing to the monogram of J.W. Terrence.
Right.
And there's a better version or visual of the JWT monogram once again down there at the bottom.
Right.
All right. So now this one, you had some things pointed out on it.
Well, dyslexic N, got a backwards N. The V, and if you examine the V in the Ramsey note Victory SPTC, you'll notice that it actually has little hooks on it if they haven't modified your copy, which is very possible or likely. And so it's actually saying, instead of saying a V, it's hinting at a dyslexic or backwards stemmed letter V, or N rather. So the hint is that, and then it's a colon right next to it with the way he made his letter I. So he's saying North colon. And that's important to me because that cracked things open. There's a lot about this document to say. There's just a ton of things to say about this. But I'm trying to...
Well, but the reference once again to the backwards writing of letters that we just looked at in the D.B. Cooper case. So it's, again, another running theme. Now, does every serial killer write the FBI or the newspapers? No. Does every serial killer tell them when they've got something wrong? No. Does every serial killer write letters backwards on purpose? No. That's what makes these strong connections between these crimes so significant.
Right. There's one other little thing I could throw in here about this is that dang it, it was senior moments where I had three things going at once. Oh, the on fire look. Notice how all of these have, I call that how I made these look like they were lit on fire. And what signals you that is the by fire up in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, on the Ramsey murder note, there are only two examples of words that are on fire that are absolutely identical, and he didn't do that with any other words or plain text words on there. One's on the first page, and the other one's on the second page, and it's the word the, and it has an on fire look to it. And that's another one of my note things. So that was important to me from the on fire look. There's another thing we could talk about later with the secret pal and the secret this, the secret, your secret pal that relates, of course, to the Halloween card.
What is the 14 circled for?
Well, I think he's saying 4 teenagers. That's one guess, and it relates to something Zodiac, but I think it also harkens forward to something that Annette doesn't want to talk about just yet. So
okay.
We'll talk about it later.
I love that you've learned me, Terry B.
Yeah,
now down here you've circled something on his foot. I was going
to say we're all circling together in the same direction.
Yeah,
right.
I think I was just saying that it's obviously he has something. It's a very deliberately drawn little image. What does it mean? So it was a question mark to me. I don't know to. It's a detailed thing amongst a fairly rough drawing, and of course, it doesn't show in this document, but I didn't discover it, but one of you guys or somebody previous to us pointed out that one of the eyes has the image of a jet in it. It was this document, wasn't it? It has a Cooper jet. I remember that's on another document I sent you, or than that. You probably even have a better copy. Probably. And then U8, you can see U8. Well, that's on the Ramsey murder note too. It's part of attaché. I pointed out last time we got together. Attaché has the words ACHE in it. So U8, attaché, everything with this guy was cryptic. Everything harkens forward and backward. There it is. There's the one with the Cooper.
So how did you get this version without? You have a version without the jack-o'-lantern.
Oh, you have one. The jack-o'-lanterns, you mean for the Ramsey murder?
Well, look at this. This version, it has the jack-o'-lantern on top of the skeleton, but you have this version where there is no jack-o'-lantern.
All this stuff was on the internet. I didn't add that jack-o'-lantern on there, but I did circle U8. But up in the upper left-hand corner, of course, is that I'm talking about the image of the jet and how that relates to DB Cooper. And this was a prediction of DB Cooper. This was before Cooper happened, as I understand it. You guys can correct me on that, but I believe this document came out before DB Cooper. PAL was a program that was a special computer language, early language program. I don't know much about it. I can't give you any details, but I just know that it's a program, and it's on my to-do list to see what its specialty was. And because my friend Bob Shields says, you know what, he couldn't have done this stuff without a computer, especially the Ramsey murder note. It's too much to organize, but I don't know. Well,
so I think that jack-o'-lantern or that pumpkin is our Jack reference once again.
Right?
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, what else we got? Yeah, jack-o'-lantern. Yep, there we go. Jack-o'-lantern. Apparently, Jack is the keyword. Just like all of his images, he emphasized the word Jack. So, yeah, what do we got down the lower left? I don't remember my own stuff because this was done about 8-9 years ago. Let's see, practically identical to the letter structure hints found in the Ramsey murder note. That's what I'm pointing out. Some of those little, family friend Fleet White Jr. said the morning of the crime of the Ramsey murder that he kept talking about the structure of the Ramsey note, which upset Mrs. Ramsey, Patsy Ramsey. And she said, what is he talking about? She didn't have it. Of course, she was upset and not examining that note. You know what I mean? Her daughter was missing and she was upset. Meanwhile, he's trying to figure it out. And he pointed something out that's a very key observation. And that is that structure had a lot to do with that note. And everything.
Yes, it did.
A Zodiac Jack 101 thing to do that. Oh, here we go. That next document was one of my favorite documents ever. I especially
this is the one they tried to say was forged by Toshi, but I found that it was not forged by Toshi, and in fact was definitely written by Zodiac Jack.
Right, and I'm seeing that he used an interchangeability for that little. The plaintext word is about.
Oh, all right. You know what? We've got 1 minute left, you guys. We blasted through this. I think this was an awesome show. I didn't even pay attention to the time. We have 1 minute left. If anybody wants to add anything at this point in time, Terry B., you go.
Oh, I was just going to say that letter A is something he exchanged for the
No. We're not going to talk anymore about letters. If there's anything else you want to sign off with.
Oh, I'm just going to say thanks to everyone, and especially Harriette, and I'm glad that Nolan's involved, and I'm especially glad that that Net's involved, and I really love your top, and you can't tell if I'm making eye contact or not. Huh?
Shame on you, Terry B. All right, Nolan, go.
The last card that you showed, where was that sent to?
That was sent to Paul Averly. That was sent to
Paul Avery at the Chronicle, right?
Avery at the Chronicle, I believe.
Right. Okay. All right.
It's the Halloween card, as I know it.
Yeah. This is the fun.
Harriette?
This is the fun section.
Harriette, anything?
Well, I just want to give a shout out to Stephen Dewhurst, Professor Stephen Dewhurst. Did you know his specialty was that global spatial stuff from above?
Yes, it was.
I'm amazed.
We'll pick up on that next week. I've got to let everybody go. Thank you all for being here. I hope you found this as fascinating as I did. I know that we all enjoyed sharing it with you. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next Friday. Take care.
Bye.